I've seen over the last year or two, I've seen people attack the messenger, not the message. When you hear out there that the implementation of voter ID and photo ID requirements in various states is akin to taking us back to the Jim Crow era or back to a time in the civil rights movement, I find it insulting for those who actually lived through that time, for people to make those analogies. When you hear people say that there's an intent to suppress minority votes, or that this is a solution in search of a problem, I find that very disconcerting. When you talk about having a solution in search of a problem, I thought about that comment this morning as I sat on the plane. As I boarded the plane, I bumped into the pilot and said hello to him. I started thinking, imagine if that pilot had said to me as I boarded the plane, based on my observations, there's a belief, I have a suspicious belief that this plane might crash based on the instrument panel readings. I can tell you right now, I would want that pilot to have every tool and take as much time as he needed to preemptively prevent this plane from crashing or having any problems. What we have here is that we have data, we have evidence across the country, specifically in South Carolina, but across the country, that shows that our methods of managing elections, controlling data, managing rolls are archaic and antiquated, outdated and outmoded, and the ability for someone to come in and, through fraud, dilute the voting pool is very present. And I want to be able to give our government the ability to combat that, to give them the tools. It is very difficult to prove a negative. If Alan Wilson goes in and uses a fraudulent voter ID card under the name of John Smith, and I vote under John Smith's name, and then I leave the polling place, you cannot go back in time and prove a negative. It is impossible. It is very difficult to catch someone in the act. But I hear countless stories of people who witnessed that. I also see folks on the other side, while they may be good people, I see them manipulate the facts and twist the data to come to a predetermined conclusion. Last year, it was determined when one of the comments was made that there are so many people in South Carolina who are registered to vote but do not have a voter registration card. Because this is actually, there are a lot of people that could be affected by having to have a voter ID, having to go and get a photo ID. In our state, we came to the understanding that there were 239,000 South Carolinians who had a voter registration card but no photo ID. Well, the Justice Department made a determination that 10% of that number were non-white. 8.4% of that number were white. A 1.6% disparity of how people could be negatively or adversely affected. The thing is they said in their refusal to pre-clear South Carolina's voter ID law, they said that minorities were 20% more likely to be disenfranchised or have their vote suppressed. Not there's a 1.6% disparity. They came up with that 20% number because the number 10 is 20% higher than 8.4. There's a twisting of facts. You see data companies out there using data from not likely voters, but from people who are of voting age, not likely or eligible or registered. They used inflated data to get a predetermined outcome. When you look at that 239,000 people in South Carolina who they said 10% were non-white, 8.4 were white, we found out later on that 92,000 of that 239,000 don't even live in South Carolina anymore. Their names had not been purged from our database. They are now citizens in another state. 37,000 of them are deceased and had not been taken off the voting rolls. Of that 37,000, 950 some odd had been shown to vote in elections after they were deceased. That may have been actually dead voters voting through fraud, or it could have been a miscalculation. It could have been a scrivener's error by the poll watcher. We're currently looking at those numbers. But the possibility, the opportunity for fraud exists.